Admiral White stood at the massive window of his command ship, his gray eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the Empire's latest conquest plans. After 50 years of service to the Galactic Empire, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. "Sir, we have an urgent message from Sector 7. His communication officer called out from behind. "It's about Earth." The Admiral didn't turn around. Earth was just another primitive world on their expansion list, barely worth his attention. "What about it?" They've banned us, sir." Now that made him turn. "Banned? The Empire?" A small laugh escaped his lips. "Explain." The young officer's fingers danced over his console, bringing up a message on the main screen. "They've declared their entire solar system off-limits to Imperial ships. They've established what they call a no-entry zone from beyond Pluto's orbit." The bridge crew tried to hide their amusement. The Level 2 civilization, barely able to reach their own moon, was telling the mighty Galactic Empire, ruler of 10,000 worlds, to keep out. Admiral White straightened his black uniform. "Send Scout Group 5 to perform a standard survey. Let's see how serious these humans are about their little declaration." "Yes, sir. Deploying scouts now." The Admiral returned to his window, watching as 5 sleek scout ships detached from the fleet and disappeared into hyperspace. Each scout ship carried enough firepower to level a small city, though they rarely needed to use it. Most worlds surrendered at the mere sight of Imperial technology. "They should reach the edge of the solar system in 6 hours, the navigation officer reported. Admiral White nodded and settled into his command chair. He had conquered hundreds of worlds for the Empire. Some tried to fight, others begged, most surrendered, but none had ever simply told them to keep out. These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. He was curious to find out which. 6 hours passed slowly on the bridge. The Admiral reviewed reports from other sectors, approved resource shipments, and signed death warrants for rebels. All routine work for an Imperial fleet commander. "Sir, Scout Group 5 should be reporting in now," the communication officer announced. Admiral White looked up from his papers. "Put them through." Silence. "Officer?" "Sir, I'm not getting any response. All 5 ships are gone." The Admiral stood up sharply. "Gone? What do you mean gone? No debris, no distress signals, no emergency beacons. They just vanished at the edge of the solar system." The bridge fell silent. Scout ships didn't just vanish. They were built with triple redundancies, emergency protocols, and the best tracking systems in the galaxy. "Show me their last known position," Admiral White ordered. A new hologram appeared, showing the edge of Earth's solar system. 5 green dots representing the scout ships approached Pluto's orbit, and then simply disappeared. "Sir," his science officer spoke up, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from that region. Nothing like our technology. Nothing like any technology we've encountered before." Admiral White felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Uncertainty. He had expected resistance, perhaps even a fight. But this was different. "Get me the Imperial Council," he ordered, "and prepare a full report on Earth's known capabilities." As his crew rushed to comply, Admiral White studied the hologram showing Earth, a small blue planet that had just done the impossible. The humans had somehow developed technology that could make Imperial ships vanish without a trace. A primitive world that wasn't supposed to have anything beyond basic spaceflight capabilities had just eliminated 5 advanced scout ships. "Sir," his first officer stepped closer and lowered his voice. "What do we do now?" Admiral White's expression hardened. In 50 years of service, he had never retreated from a world marked for Imperial expansion. But he had also never lost 5 ships without explanation. "Now," he said quietly, "now we find out what we're really dealing with, and why a small world like Earth is so confident about telling us to keep out." Looking at the peaceful blue planet on the display, Admiral White had a strange feeling that this would be very different from any conquest he had led before. Somewhere on that world, humans were probably watching and waiting for the Empire's next move. For the first time in his career, he wasn't sure what that move should be. Ambassador Reed adjusted his ceremonial robes as his diplomatic vessel approached the edge of Earth's solar system. After the mysterious disappearance of 5 scout ships, the Empire had decided to try a more peaceful approach. Reed had negotiated with 1,000 worlds, and none had ever refused to join the Empire. He was certain these humans would be no different. "Ambassador, we're receiving a transmission from Earth," his pilot announced. "Put it through," Reed said, settling into his chair. He had prepared a speech about the benefits of joining the Empire, practiced his most convincing smile, and brought along enough gold to buy a small continent. The screen lit up, showing a man in a simple blue uniform. "This is Commander Tom Parker of Earth's Space Defense Force. Your ship has entered restricted space. Please identify yourself." Reed smiled his diplomatic smile. "I am Imperial Ambassador Reed, representative of the great Galactic Empire. We rule 10,000 worlds and bring prosperity to all who join us. I come in peace to discuss Earth's unusual declaration." Commander Parker's expression didn't change. "Ambassador, you have exactly 10 minutes to state your business. After that, your ship will be removed from our solar system." Reed's smile faltered. No one had ever given him a time limit before. "Surely we can discuss this like civilized beings. The Empire offers Earth protection, advanced technology, and membership in the largest civilization in known space." "We're not interested." Parker glanced at something off-screen. 9 minutes remaining. "Not interested." Reed leaned forward. "Perhaps you don't understand. The Empire's technology is centuries ahead of Earth's. We could solve all your problems. Hunger, disease, poverty." "Ambassador," Parker interrupted, "we've already solved most of those problems. Using technology we developed from the last 3 alien species that tried to invade us." Reed blinked. "What?" Did the Empire think they were the first to find Earth? Parker actually smiled now. "We've been dealing with unwanted visitors for decades. Each time, they left behind pieces of their technology. We studied it, improved it, combined it." Reed's diplomatic training hadn't prepared him for this. "But our scans show you barely have space flight capability. That's what we want you to see." Parker checked his watch. 6 minutes. "The Empire's ships," Reed said suddenly. "The ones that disappeared. What did you do to them?" "Removed them. Safely. They're in a pocket dimension we created. Don't worry, your crews are fine. They're probably enjoying Earth coffee and donuts right now while we explain the situation to them." Reed felt a headache coming on. Pocket dimensions, Earth coffee. This wasn't how first contact negotiations usually went. "Commander Parker," he tried again, "surely we can reach an agreement. The Empire has much to offer." 5 minutes. "And no, you don't. We've studied your Empire, Ambassador. Your technology is impressive, but it's all based on the same principles. You've gotten bigger and faster, but you haven't truly innovated in centuries." Reed stood up, his diplomatic calm cracking. "Now see here. 4 minutes. Here's what's going to happen, Ambassador. You're going to take a message back to your Empire. Earth and its solar system are off limits. We're not interested in joining your Empire, trading with your Empire, or having any contact with your Empire. This is outrageous. The Empire will not stand for." 3 minutes. Parker's voice hardened. "And if the Empire doesn't stand for it, they'll find out exactly what happens when you combine Centauri phase technology with Rigelian energy matrices and human innovation." Reed sat down heavily. He had never failed a diplomatic mission before. "You're making a mistake. The Empire will not forget this." 2 minutes. "That's fine. We won't forget how to use our defense grid either." Parker smiled again. "Your crew members will be returned to your capital world within the week. They'll tell you all about what they saw here. And if we refuse to accept this, Reed asked quietly. 1 minute. Then keep sending ships. We'll keep removing them. Eventually, you'll run out of ships or patience. Either way, Earth stays free. Reed looked at his pilot, who shrugged helplessly. Very well, Commander. I will deliver your message. Good choice. Have a safe trip back, Ambassador. And remember, Earth's close. Don't come back. The screen went dark. Reed stared at it for a long moment, then turned to his pilot. Get us out of here. Now. As their ship turned away from Earth's solar system, Reed realized he would be the first Imperial ambassador in history to return with a flat rejection. Somehow, he didn't think the Empire's leaders would take it well. 50 ships, Commander Tom Parker said quietly, looking at the radar screen. They really sent 50 warships. The Earth Defense Command Center buzzed with activity. Operators sat at their stations, monitoring the massive Imperial fleet that had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. Above them, a huge screen showed the positions of each Imperial vessel. They're calling it a diplomatic fleet, his second-in-command, Lisa Baker, reported with a small smile. Apparently, that's what the Empire calls 50 heavily armed warships when they're trying to be peaceful. Tom nodded, watching the fleet's formation. The Empire had arranged their ships in a perfect arrow shape, pointing directly at Earth. It was meant to be intimidating. Instead, it just made their job easier. They're broadcasting a message, one of the operators called out. Put it through, Tom ordered. Admiral White's face appeared on the main screen. He looked calm, confident, and completely in control. This is Admiral White of the Imperial Fleet. Your response to our diplomatic mission was unfortunate. We have come to correct that mistake. Tom didn't bother standing up. Admiral, this is Commander Parker. You're in restricted space. Leave now, or we'll remove your ships. The Admiral actually laughed. Commander, I have 50 of the Empire's finest warships. Each one carries enough firepower to turn a continent to ash. You have nowhere near the capability to stop us. Last warning, Admiral. Leave or face the consequences. You had your chance for diplomacy. Now you'll learn why no one defies the Empire. The Admiral nodded to someone off-screen. All ships, battle formations. Show these humans what real power looks like. Tom sighed and pressed a button on his chair. Grid control, you're cleared to proceed. Standard removal protocol. In space, the Imperial fleet began to spread out, weapons charging, shields powering up. They expected resistance. Fighters, missiles, energy weapons. They were ready for anything Earth could throw at them. Anything except what actually happened. It started at the edges of their formation. Ships simply vanished. No explosions, no debris, no distress signals. They were there one moment, gone the next. Sir, an Imperial officer's panicked voice came through the comm. We're losing ships, some kind of energy field. 3 more ships disappeared. Full power to shields. Admiral White ordered. Launch fighters. Return fire. But there was nothing to fire at. No enemy ships. No incoming weapons. Just a silent, invisible force that kept making their ships vanish. Fascinating, Lisa said, watching the display. They really don't understand what they're dealing with, do they? Tom shook his head. The Empire's gotten too used to being the strongest. They don't know how to handle something they can't fight. On screen, Admiral White was shouting orders, trying to maintain control as his fleet literally disappeared around him. Status report. How many ships are still responding? 28. No, 23. 19. The Empire's perfect formation had broken. Ships were trying to retreat, but it didn't matter. The defense grid worked just as well on moving targets. Admiral, Tom called out, would you like to know where your ships are? White's face was red with fury. What have you done with them? They're safe. We've moved them to a holding dimension, a pocket of space-time we created specifically for storing unwanted visitors. They have air, food, and entertainment. We even added a recreation room after the scout ships complained about being bored. This is impossible. No Level 2 civilization has this kind of technology. Tom smiled. You're right. That's why we're not a Level 2 civilization. We just let everyone think we are. It's easier that way. 10 ships remaining, Lisa reported. The Admiral's command ship tried to jump to hyperspace. The energy field caught it mid-jump, and it vanished like all the others. All Imperial ships removed. Grid control reported. Holding dimension is stable. All crews accounted for. Tom stood up and stretched. Send the usual welcome package to the crews. And make sure they know that this time, we're sending them all back at once. The Empire needs to understand that we're serious. What if they send more ships? Lisa asked. Then we'll remove those too. Eventually, they'll figure out that we meant what we said. Tom looked at the now empty space where 50 Imperial warships had been. Earth is closed to the Empire. No exceptions. In the holding dimension, 50 ships worth of Imperial crews were about to discover why Earth coffee and donuts had become famous among the first group of scouts, and why no one who visited Earth's pocket dimension ever wanted to invade again. Dr. Smith stood before the Imperial Science Council, trying to hide his excitement. After 3 months of studying the data from Earth, he had finally figured it out. The hard part would be making the Council understand just how thoroughly they had underestimated humans. Begin your report, the head counselor ordered. Dr. Smith touched his tablet, and a hologram of Earth appeared in the center of the room. Honored Council, what we thought we knew about Earth was wrong. Completely wrong. Explain, another counselor demanded. We classified Earth as a Level 2 civilization based on their visible technology. Space stations, primitive ships, basic energy weapons. He paused. But we never asked why a planet with their resources had so many crash sites. The council members looked at each other. Crash sites. Yes. In the last 50 years, Earth has been visited by at least 3 other spacefaring races. The Zentari and their crystal ships, the Rigelians with their energy matrices, and the Proxima colonists with their dimensional tech. He showed images of each crashed ship. Each tried to invade or colonize Earth. Each failed. And the head counselor looked bored. And the humans kept everything. Every crashed ship, every broken weapon, every damaged engine. Dr. Smith's eyes lit up. They didn't just study these technologies. They understood them, combined them, improved them. Now he had their attention. The council members leaned forward as he continued. The Zentari ships could phase through solid matter. The Rigelians could manipulate massive amounts of energy. The Proxima colonists could create small pocket dimensions for storage. He gestured at his data. Separately, each technology was impressive but limited. Together, they created their defense grid. The head counselor finished. Exactly. They took the Zentari phase technology and powered it with Rigelian energy matrices. They expanded the Proximan dimensional pockets to hold entire fleets. Dr. Smith paced excitedly, but that's not the impressive part. There's more. They improved everything. The Zentari phase technology could only handle small objects. Humans figured out how to scale it up. The Rigelian matrices burned out quickly. Humans made them stable. The Proximan dimensions were temporary. Humans made them permanent. One of the younger counselors spoke up. But how? They're primitive. Dr. Smith smiled. No, they're different. We advance by building on our own discoveries. Humans had to understand and combine totally different technologies. It forced them to think in new ways. He showed more data. Look at their pattern. Each time they were attacked, they got stronger. They didn't just copy the alien technology. They understood the principles behind it. They asked questions no one else thought to ask. Like what? Like what happens if you phase something into a pocket dimension? Or can you use energy matrices to stabilize dimensional walls? They made connections we missed because we were too focused on our own path of development. The council chamber fell silent as they considered this. Finally, the head counselor spoke. Your recommendation: stop trying to conquer Earth. Start learning from them. Dr. Smith looked at each council member. They've done something unprecedented. They've combined 3 alien technologies into something entirely new, something we can't counter because we never imagined it was possible. The Empire doesn't learn from lesser beings, one counselor protested. Then the Empire will keep losing ships, Dr. Smith replied firmly. Because Earth's defense grid isn't their only invention. Those 50 ships we lost, their crews reported seeing more technology we don't understand. Earth has been busy. You sound like you admire them, the head counselor noted. I do. They took the best parts of 3 different alien technologies and made something better than the sum of its parts. That's not primitive. That's genius. The council chambers erupted in argument. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for more study. A few even suggested trying to hire human scientists. Dr. Smith gathered his data and quietly left them to debate. He had delivered his report. Now it was up to the Empire to decide if they were wise enough to learn from a world they had dismissed as primitive. As he walked back to his lab, he couldn't help smiling. Somewhere on Earth, humans were probably already working on their next impossible invention. He almost wished he could see what they would come up with next. Supreme Negotiator James had never seen a meeting room quite like this one. The Earth delegates had suggested meeting on their International Space Station, which now floated at the edge of Earth's defense grid. Through the window, he could see his Imperial ship safely docked, after being carefully guided through a small gap in the grid. Welcome to neutral territory, Commander Tom Parker said, offering him a cup of something dark and steaming. Try the coffee. Everyone does. Eventually, James accepted the cup cautiously. After losing 50 ships and having Dr. Smith's report shake the Imperial Council, the Empire had finally decided to try real diplomacy. No threats, no shows of force, just honest discussion. I must admit, James said after sipping the coffee, this is excellent. I see why your previous visitors mentioned it. Coffee and donuts, Tom smiled. Earth's secret weapons. They've probably done more for peace than our defense grid. A screen on the wall lit up, showing the Earth Council ready to begin negotiations. James noticed they weren't trying to impress anyone, just regular people in simple clothes, ready to talk business. Let's be clear, the Earth Council head began. We don't want to join your empire, but we're willing to discuss other options. James nodded. This was why they'd chosen him. He knew when to listen instead of talk. What options did you have in mind? First, Tom said, Earth stays independent. No imperial control, no imperial laws, no imperial taxes. We keep our solar system and our technology. The Empire doesn't usually. The Empire, Tom interrupted gently, has already seen what happens when they try to force the issue. We're offering a better way. James took another sip of coffee. It really was remarkable. Continue. Second, we'll share our defense grid technology. The room went silent. James nearly dropped his cup. You'll share it. With conditions, the Earth Council head added. It can only be used for defense, never conquest. And it must be available to any world that wants to protect itself from unwanted visitors. James's diplomatic training kicked in. The Empire maintains order across 10,000 worlds. This technology could destabilize everything. Or, Tom suggested, it could change how the Empire works. Instead of ruling through force, you could lead through cooperation. Protect worlds instead of conquering them. Our third condition, another council member spoke up, is reform. The Empire needs to change how it treats other worlds. No more forced colonization. No more taking resources without fair payment. James set down his cup. You're asking us to change everything about how the Empire works. Yes, Tom said simply. Because the old way won't work anymore. Earth isn't the only world that's been collecting and improving alien technology. We're just the first to stand up to you. There are others. Many others. Some are almost ready to reveal their advances. Others need more time. Tom refilled James's coffee cup. The Empire can either change now, peacefully, or face a galaxy full of worlds with technology you don't understand. James thought about the 50 ships Earth had removed so easily, about Dr. Smith's report on how humans combine technologies in ways the Empire had never considered, about how this simple space station probably held more technological surprises than they could guess. If we agree, he said carefully, what does Earth offer in return? Partnership, the Earth Council had answered. Access to our scientific understanding, not just the technology, but how we think about it. Trade routes through our solar system, and most importantly, a new way of dealing with other worlds that doesn't require constant military action. Our ships will still patrol Imperial space, James pointed out. Of course, Tom smiled. But as peacekeepers, not conquerors. Protection instead of control. It's a better way, and you know it. James looked down at his coffee cup, then out at the stars. The Empire had existed for 10,000 years. Change didn't come easily to something that old, but sometimes. I'll need to discuss this with the Imperial Council, he said finally. Take your time, Tom replied. Have another coffee, maybe try a donut, and think about how much better the galaxy could be if the Empire became a protector instead of a ruler. James nodded slowly. Perhaps it was time for the Empire to learn a new way of thinking. After all, it had worked pretty well for Earth. Admiral White stood on his command ship's bridge, watching the news feeds from across the Empire. Everything was changing, and for once in his long career, he wasn't trying to stop it. Another 3 systems have declared independence, his officer reported. They're requesting Earth's defense grid technology. The Admiral nodded. After Earth's offer became public, the Empire had started falling apart. But not in the way anyone expected. It wasn't chaos. It was transformation. Show me the Centauri broadcast, he ordered. The main screen lit up, showing massive crowds celebrating in the Centauri system. They had been one of the first to follow Earth's example, revealing their own advanced technology that combined different alien systems. We've hidden our true capabilities for decades, the Centauri leader was saying. Like Earth, we learned from those who tried to conquer us. Now it's time for a new way. White touched a button on his chair. Get me Commander Parker. The screen split, and Tom Parker appeared. He was drinking coffee, as usual. Admiral, how's the revolution going? Peacefully, thanks to you. White shook his head with a small smile. You knew this would happen, didn't you? When other worlds heard about Earth's stand against us. We suspected. Tom sipped his coffee. Humans weren't the only ones collecting crashed ships and studying alien tech. We were just the first to use it openly. A new alert flashed on White's screen. The Rigel system, one of the Empire's oldest colonies, had just activated their own defense grid. They hadn't declared independence. They were asking for a new relationship with the Empire. The Imperial Council is in chaos, White said. Half of them want to crush these rebellions. The other half want to accept Earth's offer and reform the Empire. And what do you want, Admiral? White looked at his crew, remembering how they'd all reacted to Earth's defense grid. Not with fear, but with amazement. I want the Empire to survive. And I'm starting to think the only way for that to happen is to change. That's why we picked you to talk to. Tom smiled. Dr. Smith's report showed us you were different. You didn't just see Earth as a threat. You saw us as something new. Something that could make the Empire better. On other screens, more reports were coming in. The Orion systems were negotiating new trade agreements. The Pleiades cluster wanted to share their advanced medical technology. Worlds that had been silent partners in the Empire for centuries were finally showing their true capabilities. We're getting reports of hidden technology everywhere, White said. Advances in medicine, energy, space travel, things the Empire never knew existed because we were too busy forcing worlds to obey us. Fear makes people hide things, Tom agreed. Trust makes them share. That's why Earth offered to share our defense grid, to show the Empire a better way. White watched as another system activated a defense grid, but instead of using it to keep Imperial ships out, they were using it to protect trade routes. Exactly as Earth had suggested. The old guard in the Imperial Council won't give up easily, he warned. That's why we need people like you, Admiral. Leaders who can see that the Empire's strength doesn't have to come from fear and control. A message flashed on White's screen. The Imperial Council was calling an emergency session. They wanted him to testify about the spreading changes. I have to go, he told Tom. The Council wants to hear my thoughts on all this. And what will you tell them? White straightened his uniform. I'll tell them that Earth didn't just show us new technology. They showed us a new way to run an empire. Through respect, not fear. Through sharing knowledge, not hoarding it. Through protecting worlds, not controlling them. Good luck, Admiral. Tom raised his coffee cup in a salute. Oh, and if you need help convincing them, let me guess, send them coffee and donuts. Works every time. As White headed to the council chamber, he smiled. The Empire was changing, world by world, system by system. And somehow, a small blue planet that had dared to say, "Keep out," had started it all. The revolution wasn't being fought with weapons. It was being won with ideas, innovation, and yes, maybe even coffee and donuts. 1 year after Earth's famous Keep Out declaration, the solar system looked very different. The International Space Station had grown into a massive diplomatic hub, where representatives from hundreds of worlds came to share ideas, technology, and of course, coffee. Commander Tom Parker stood at its main observation deck, watching ships from across the galaxy pass through carefully controlled gaps in Earth's defense grid. Next to him, Admiral White, now the head of the reformed Empire's Peace Council, was enjoying his daily coffee. Hard to believe it all started with us telling you to go away, Tom said, looking at the busy space lanes. Best thing that ever happened to the Empire, White replied. Though I still wish you'd warned us about the coffee addiction. Below them, Earth shone blue and peaceful. The defense grid sparkled faintly in the sunlight, no longer a barrier, but a symbol of the new way worlds protected themselves. Latest report from the Technology Exchange Council. A young officer handed Tom a tablet. 3 more worlds have successfully combined their hidden technologies with others. The Andromeda colonies are asking for help with their new medical research center. Tom smiled. The Empire hadn't collapsed. It had evolved. Now it coordinated technology sharing, protected trade routes, and helped worlds work together instead of forcing them to obey. Remember when we thought Earth was primitive? White asked, watching a Centauri ship dock nearby. Now everyone wants to know how humans think. We just had practice, Tom shrugged. When you're the small guy, you learn to look at problems differently. Combine things in new ways. Find solutions nobody else sees. The station's main screen showed news from across the galaxy. The reformed Empire's symbol, Earth's defense grid design surrounded by stars, appeared everywhere. Not as a mark of control, but as a sign of protection and cooperation. Dr. Smith's latest project is ready, the officer reported. They've successfully combined technology from 6 different worlds to create a new faster-than-light drive. 6 different systems working together. White shook his head in amazement. A year ago, they would have been too afraid of each other to share anything. Through another window, they could see Earth's famous Keep Out sign, still floating at the edge of the solar system. But now it had a second part, unless you come in peace. The Imperial Council wants to move their headquarters here, White said. They think being closer to Earth will help them understand this new way of thinking better. As long as they don't mind our rules, Tom replied. And bring their own coffee. We're running low again. A group of alien visitors walked past, talking excitedly about their latest projects. Some wore Imperial uniforms, others wore their own world's clothes. No one cared about the difference anymore. You know what the funny thing is? White said, watching them. Earth still technically bans the Empire from entering. We just changed the Empire so much that it's not really an empire anymore. More of a partnership now, Tom agreed. Turns out most worlds don't mind working together. They just didn't want to be conquered. The station's lights dimmed slightly as its new power system, another combination of different worlds' technology, activated. In orbit around Earth, research stations from a dozen systems studied everything from advanced physics to better ways of growing food. The defense grid is spreading, the officer reported. But worlds are using it like we hoped, to protect peace, not start wars. Because they understand now, White said, real power isn't about controlling others. It's about working together to create something better. Tom looked at Earth again, remembering how it all started. One small world, telling a mighty empire to keep out. Not out of fear or hatred, but because they knew there was a better way. To the new era, White raised his coffee cup. To the new era, Tom agreed. And to all the worlds that hid their best ideas, waiting for a chance to share them properly. Below them, Earth kept spinning peacefully, its defense grid twinkling like stars. The Keep Out sign that had started it all still floated in space, reminding everyone that sometimes the best way to change the galaxy was simply to stand your ground and offer coffee and donuts to your enemies. The Empire had wanted to conquer Earth. Instead, Earth had shown the Empire and the galaxy a new way to live among the stars.